New Jersey, home of diners, jug handles, boardwalks, and more attitude per square mile than anywhere else in America. And yeah, people love to clown on Jersey, calling it the armpit of America, just highways and smokestacks. But the truth is, there are plenty of great places to live here. This video isn't about those places. Today, we're counting down the top 10 worst places to live in New Jersey. The towns and cities that give the Garden State its bad reputation. We're talking high crime, crushing poverty, corrupt politicians, and aesthetics that make you wish you took the wrong exit. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the absolute bottom of the Jersey barrel. First up on our list is Penns Grove, the South Jersey borough that proves misery really can come in small packages. Less than 1 square mile, about 4,800 people, and somehow every single one of them looks like they're starring in the same mugshot compilation. On paper, the stats are brutal. The poverty rate here hovers around 36%. That's triple the New Jersey average. The violent crime rate stands at around 1 in every 111 residents. Property crime at 1 in 47. If you live here, there's a better chance of your car getting stolen than your Amazon package making it to your porch. Despite all this BS, Penns Grove also has one of the highest property tax rates in the entire state, over 5.5%, compared to the Jersey average of around 2.3%. So yeah, you're paying double the tax rate for potholes, poverty, and the privilege of bolting your lawn chairs to the porch. But the real Penns Grove experience is in the vibe. Walk around and it feels less like a town and more like a family reunion where everyone's fighting and nobody brought food. You've got kids running around in pajama pants at 2 p.m., uncles fixing cars on the lawn with a cigarette dangling out of their mouth, and somebody's always yelling about scratch-offs outside the quick check. Penns Grove is a place of high crime, high taxes, and high chances your neighbor's pit bull is off the leash again. It's Jersey's version of quicksand. Once you're in, it's really hard to climb out. Next up is Lindenwold, aka the town that time, money, and good decisions forgot. If Penns Grove is quicksand, Lindenwold is wet cement. You're not stuck right away, but give it a few years and suddenly you can't move. Let's talk numbers. Lindenwold's poverty rate is around 20%, nearly double the statewide average. Median household income here barely cracks $55,000, compared to Jersey's $97,000. Translation: while the rest of the state is worrying about beach house mortgages, Lindenwold's just hoping the lights stay on. And the crime, while not Newark-level chaos, it's still bad enough that leaving your bike unlocked here is basically donating it to the community. Property crime hits at about 1 in 60 residents, and violent crime rates are higher than most towns in South Jersey. What really kills Lindenwold, though, is the environment. The town is basically a graveyard of dusty apartment complexes and strip malls that look like they were condemned during the Clinton administration. Even the NJ transit station feels less like public transportation and more like the set of a low-budget crime drama. And the people, you'll see it all in Lindenwold. Kids loitering in Walmart parking lots, middle-aged dudes posting up at Wawa like it's their office, and parents picking fights at youth football games like their 8-year-old is about to get drafted by the Eagles. Lindenwold isn't the worst place in Jersey. You can survive here. But between the poverty, the crime, and the depressing aesthetic of a town that peaked in 1975, living here feels less like community and more like punishment with free parking. Coming in at number 8 is Atlantic City, aka Vegas's broke little brother. This place is the definition of a cautionary tale. It was supposed to be the East Coast glittering gambling capital, and now it's basically slot machines surrounded by pawn shops and cash advance spots. The stats tell you the whole story. Atlantic City's poverty rate is a staggering 35%, almost triple the state average. The median household income is around $32,000, which is about a third of what the average New Jersey household makes. Atlantic City's violent crime rate is nearly 5 times higher than the national average, with one of the highest property crime rates in the country, not just Jersey. The town itself is one giant contradiction. On the boardwalk, you've got billion-dollar casinos and hotels, but take 3 steps inland, and suddenly you're in what looks like the set of a post-apocalyptic movie. You can hit a jackpot at Bally's and get mugged at knife point before you even make it to the parking garage. Even the casinos can't stay alive. Trump Plaza literally got demolished in 2021 because nobody wanted it. That's Atlantic City in a nutshell. Places don't close, they collapse. Half of the locals are just trying to survive. The other half are degenerates who look like they haven't left the blackjack table since 1998. Tourists roll in thinking it's going to be glitzy Vegas, and by day 2 they're drunk, broke, and wondering why the seagulls are so aggressive. Atlantic City is a bad bet when it comes to being a place to live. The house always wins, unless the house goes bankrupt first. At number 7, we've got Bridgeton, a town that feels less like New Jersey and more like a history project nobody finished. Once upon a time, this was a booming industrial hub. Now it's empty factories, crumbling storefronts, and a downtown that looks like a sepia postcard somebody left out in the rain. The numbers paint a grim picture. Bridgeton's poverty rate is over 35%, making it one of the poorest places in the entire state. Median household income is barely $42,000, which is less than half the state average. Violent crime sits well above national levels, and property crime makes locking your doors feel more like a suggestion than security. Walking through town, you'll see it all. Rows of abandoned homes, sidewalks that look like they've been through 5 earthquakes, and convenience stores with more bars on the windows than snacks on the shelves. The local high school has more security guards than some malls. And while Bridgeton is one of the most diverse towns in Jersey, instead of it feeling like a cultural melting pot, it's more like a pressure cooker. You've got hardworking families just trying to get by, while the town's infrastructure collapses around them. Bridgeton is a place where the past and present never got the memo to move forward. It's the kind of town that brags about its historic district, but the only thing historic is how long the unemployment line has been. Living here isn't just tough, it's exhausting, and it's why Bridgeton firmly earns its spot in the bottom 10. Sliding in at number 6 is East Orange, a city that sits just outside Newark and has spent the last century trying and failing to convince people it's not just Newark light. Back in the early 1900s, East Orange was actually considered a posh commuter town for people working in New York. Fast forward 100 years, and now it's the place where landlords and public works both went to die. The stats don't do it any favors. The poverty rate hovers around 20%. Violent crime is nearly 3 times the national average, and property crime sits comfortably above state norms. Median household income is about $57,000, which wouldn't be terrible if it weren't for the fact that the cost of living in North Jersey laughs at that number. Walk through East Orange today, and you'll see block after block of apartment complexes that look like Soviet architecture with slightly more graffiti. The streets are filled with traffic that never moves, buses that never show up, and potholes that could qualify as swimming pools. The local culture is a strange mashup. There's real pride here, don't get it twisted. But it's hard to celebrate when your town motto might as well be, "At least we're not Irvington." Residents will fight you if you say East Orange is just Newark overflow, but one look at the crime map says otherwise. East Orange went from being an upscale suburb to a textbook case of urban decline, and no amount of glossy redevelopment flyers is fixing it anytime soon. At the end of the day, it's still Newark's sidekick, the Robin to Gotham's worst Batman. Kicking off the top 5 is Irvington, a place that used to bill itself as a suburban retreat, but today feels like a real-life episode of Live PD. Historically, this was a small township where city workers escaped to raise families. Today, it's one of the densest, roughest corners of Essex County, better known for carjackings than cul-de-sacs. The numbers back it up. The poverty rate sits around 25%, way above the state average. Median household income? About $55,000, which in North Jersey barely covers rent and groceries. But here's the headliner. Irvington's violent crime rate is roughly 4 times the national average. Robbery and assault aren't occasional, they're background noise. Geographically, Irvington sits right in the crosshairs of major highways, which means traffic, smog, and the constant soundtrack of sirens. Whole blocks are lined with 3-story houses that look like they were abandoned mid-renovation. The downtown has more check-cashing spots and liquor stores than actual grocery stores. Culturally, Irvington's residents wear their toughness like a badge. There's pride here, no doubt, but it's the kind of pride you get when surviving feels like a full-time job. Outsiders joke that Irvington is just Newark with fewer jobs and more potholes, but locals will tell you it's worse. They don't even have the skyline to distract from the chaos. Irvington is a place where history, poverty, and crime all pile onto each other like rush hour traffic on the Garden State Parkway. And that's why it's earned its not-so-glamorous spot in the top 5. Sliding into the number 4 spot is Trenton, the state capital of New Jersey, and living proof that politics ruins everything it touches. This city actually mattered once, back in 1776 when George Washington crossed the Delaware and kicked some redcoat ass nearby. Fast forward almost 250 years, and now the only battles happening in Trenton are over expired scratch-offs at the corner bodega. The stats are rough. Trenton's poverty rate is over 27%, nearly 3 times the state average. Median household income? Just under $50,000. And the crime rate? Violent crime sits at nearly 5 times the national average. This is the kind of place where locking your car is just wishful thinking. Geographically, Trenton should be a powerhouse. It sits right on the Delaware River. It's got train lines connecting to New York and Philly, and it's literally the capital of the state. Instead, downtown looks like a collection of government buildings surrounded by boarded-up storefronts and potholes so deep you could hide a body in them. Culturally, Trenton's got grit, but it's the kind of grit you get from sandpaper scraping your soul. You've got politicians rolling into town, cashing their checks, and heading right back to their Mercer County McMansions. Meanwhile, locals are left with underfunded schools, crumbling infrastructure, and a murder rate that keeps the police blotter working overtime. Trenton loves to brag. Trenton makes, the world takes. But these days it feels more like Trenton breaks, and the world shakes its head. For a capital city, it's less inspiring and more depressing, like the DMV but with more gunfire. Taking the bronze medal for Jersey misery is Paterson, aka Silk City. Back in the 1800s, Paterson was America's first planned industrial city, famous for silk production and innovation. Today, the only thing being produced in Paterson is mugshots and potholes. The numbers hit harder than a left hook. The poverty rate sits around 25%, and the median household income hovers just above $50,000. Violent crime here is nearly 4 times the national average. And property crime? You don't own things in Paterson. You just borrow them until somebody else wants them more. Paterson has the Great Falls, a literal national park and one of the biggest waterfalls east of the Mississippi. Most cities would build a thriving economy around a wonder like that. Paterson? They built a bodega, 3 liquor stores, and left the rest covered in graffiti. The Great Falls is supposed to be inspirational, but mostly it's just background noise for drug deals. Day-to-day life is a mix of chaos and nostalgia. The downtown streets are jammed with dollar stores, traffic, and people trying to sell you knockoff AirPods out of a backpack. The schools are perpetually underfunded, and the only consistent thing about City Hall is the corruption scandals. Even the cops in Paterson get arrested almost as often as the criminals. Paterson isn't just down bad, it's the textbook case of wasted potential. From Silk City to Struggle City, this place went from fueling America's industrial revolution to fueling half the state's headlines. In the runner-up spot, we've got Newark, New Jersey's largest city. The one place everybody flies out of, but nobody actually wants to land in. Newark was once an industrial powerhouse, booming in the late 1800s with factories, shipping, and jobs. Fast forward a century, and the only thing booming now are car alarms and corruption charges. The stats make it clear. Newark's poverty rate hovers around 25%, more than double the state average. Median household income is just over $40,000, which in North Jersey doesn't even get you a studio with working heat. And violent crime? More than 3 times the national average. Geographically, Newark has everything going for it. It's a major port, it's got rail lines, and Newark Liberty Airport pumps millions of people through it every year. But let's be real. Newark Airport is less a transportation hub and more the 7th circle of hell with moving walkways. If Dante had lived in Jersey, the Inferno would have just been Terminal B. The city itself is a split personality. Downtown has Prudential Center, NJPAC, and shiny new development projects that look good on postcards. But walk 10 minutes in the wrong direction, and you're in neighborhoods where abandoned buildings and corner liquor stores outnumber streetlights. Newark is like putting a bow tie on a pit bull. It doesn't change what's underneath. The culture? Newark's got resilience and pride, no doubt, but it's also got corruption baked into its DNA. Mayors here have been indicted so often they might as well hold office inside a courtroom. And for all the revitalization hype, the city still feels like it's one missed rent payment away from collapse. Newark's the kind of city where opportunity and danger live side by side. It's got history, it's got culture, but it's also got crime stats that make other cities look like a daycare. And that's why Newark is sitting here at number 2. And here we are, the crown jewel of Jersey dysfunction, Camden. This city was once an industrial powerhouse. Campbell's Soup, RCA, shipbuilding, you name it. Fast forward to today, and it's a shell of its former self. Sure, the waterfront is okay now. You've got the Battleship New Jersey, an aquarium, even a shiny concert venue. Take a selfie by the river and you might trick people into thinking Camden is on the up. But step a block or two off the waterfront and the illusion shatters. The rest of the city is still a disaster zone. Boarded up houses, gutted row homes, streets with more weeds than working streetlights. Poverty here is brutal. About a third of residents live below the line. Median household income hovers around $39,000, and violent crime? Still consistently among the highest in the nation. It's surreal. Families in matching t-shirts line up for the aquarium, while a few blocks away, people are lining up at corner bodegas that double as drug outposts. Camden literally had to disband its police department in 2013 because corruption and incompetence were that bad. How many cities can say that? So yeah, Camden's waterfront has a fresh coat of paint, but the rest of the city is still burning behind it. It's like putting a Rolex on a corpse. You're not fooling anybody. That's why Camden doesn't just land at #1 on this list. It owns the spot, free and clear. And there you have it, our list of the top 10 worst places to live in New Jersey. From Penns Grove's brutal taxes all the way to Camden's waterfront glow-up surrounded by a war zone. We've toured the absolute bottom of the Garden State barrel. Now don't get me wrong, Jersey's got great food, killer beaches, and more personality than most states combined. But these towns are the ones that give the rest of us road rage just by existing. If you got a laugh, or if your hometown made the list and you're mad as hell about it, good. That means we did our job. Drop a like on this video, roast us back in the comments, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. Because trust me, we're just getting started.